Hello, this is now another important thing. There had been losing of homeland, Heimatverlust. Oh, that was not what I wanted to look at. This is not only a thing of the last days, of the days before, between 45 and now, it had been even before. Like the people had to leave Salzburg, like those who were having or who were forced to leave somewhere else. It is better than in it is now Austria, or it had been, still is. This is important for me. This is conclusion according to what I was told. This is the missing father, and this myself at the age of 16, and this was at the age of 15 or 14 and a half. And this was then my mother looking with an accusation against the unknown. I knew there had been actors. This mostly is with my mother, the elder. The younger, this is not prepared, this is on the sideline of my life, but I'm now detecting my own career, my own curriculum, what I must have experienced and understand. I had acquaintances that is understood only now. I had acquaintances that had been not ordinary, and there had been a network that was destroyed because of the World War, the war all over the world. And those were then rather known to others. For me it was, I don't know why, I was asked if I was interested, or if I had been interested, and that was between this and that age, and the so-called Hollywood, more than ever, I don't know. For me as a child I was taken along, and I was even allowed to play in a part, and then of a movie, maybe as a replacement. I don't know. I was not interested if the film was cut together or not. For me it was something offered to look if that were for me. I never got a real career there. It was visiting. And now I wanted to show you the date of today. It's important. And today, the 21st, time is running. This is from yesterday. And two cameras. And I showed you the background. I put then down the veil. This is real. This is not an actor business. It is out of the necessity to show myself, not to be wrongly understood. This must have been problem, wrong understanding. I can't explain it right now. I'm on the trace. And let me look at Firefox and show you Lepli. And I was invited because I had interests, and I looked into it. This was like a program, I don't know, he's a character. You won't recognize, and I myself, it could have been a play where several participants had been there, and it is then cut together. What is that? I can remember at the doorstep someone asked this tune to be put into Spanish, and I did not fully understand, and I still don't, why my mother once said she had been counseling Mr. Adenauer. But why do I remember those both? And then how hard it was, those both together. And this is a title, this is a catching title, but those both were only two of the many characters, very different, but the network, I did not even understand if it was a network on what basis, on what legal grounds, if any, if there had been legal grounds. And now understanding those new things. I was there as a boy, but I could not even say if it had been the real character or a replacement. Later, or you can see in between, there's one photograph, and there had been then someone else who was regarded the most important thing to understand, character was played from different actors. I think this is already known. And I looked a little bit as a visitor in it, and I do not even know if I was traveling on my own, called Christian name, or if I had been Frederick or Freddy or Fred. I was there private on my own, as my own entity, but maybe I was introduced, and this of course I did not hear, as someone else. Having the opportunity to travel alongside, I did not ask it back then, but this is now the question. Those two men were living nearly or exactly the lifestyle they were acting. But I did not know, I can say it for the right one, for Mr. Wayne, but the other, was he the man? No, there was another man who was then not allowed to go to Ukraine. He was put with Jack Benny, he was put as Polish. He was not amused. But I said, times are difficult. But if they had said it to me, I would have said, no. Please, first let me ask my mother. I could hide behind her back. And it is important. There had been someone else. He was regarded Chinese. He was a good stuntman actor. And because good, I might say, if it was good, he was that often seen on the or in the television. And Mr. Jack Benny, he was the jackknife. He was playing funny, but respect a man even if he is playing a funny part. That is important. But you can't teach it a boy. And I had contact. And then the first television line, there were military specialists in California. He had a very large audience. Because of that, it was prolonged. I can remember that. And those are details. And I understood those, knew my father. And I was somehow as a child accepted. I don't know if that would be the case right now. But even those had problems to understand why there were not a network anymore. It was somehow destroyed because of the turbulences. The network was indirectly there. They knew each other from of old. And then the stuntman technique, that was like training for the special, you might say, a position in a merchandise or in an industrial network. There had been own protection needed, and I can't say if those were then, back then, had been the operators of industrial facilities. I don't know. But much was destroyed, and then the time changed. The process of manufacturing good was different. But I understood, and I'm not quite sure if that is what I understood or what had been, that the acting was the necessary to survive, and then the problem of contracts. But I was there as a child, I was sitting in a corner and others were talking, and for me it was rather that nearly everybody, I understood that, was having a hard time because of the unwilling breaking up of things. And for me it is now that I'm forced, because to defend myself, to show myself that people cannot longer say, because of my night shift and so on, because not being of the shallow character, even with them, those had been quite a character. And for me it was then that one said, why do you know the other? I was a boy, and I was raised to understand. This was the quality needed, but then time ran, and I think both are not on this earth anymore, and it was not free will that those had been actors. It was the only thing wanted. And I can't say too much, because I don't know. It is the background. And for me it had been a thing offered to me, and I understood it is important to know nearly on every field something. In the legal area, and then the technical, the chemist's area, and then the mixing of all the things. For example, plastic. The polymers, or the stuff that is then building up plastic, is different. There's hard plastic, and then plastic that is more soft and bendable, but then the danger of drinking some poison with it. That had been at the beginning. And with my mother, there had been I don't know it exactly. I was ordered to go to school, but then do you want to have a visit? And then the visits were too long, and it was on weekends, and school was not that important anymore, but it still was. And this was something with the others as well. They had different goals, but then were contracted. And I understood there was a film technique. My mother said they should have shown you. There was new technique, the cutting technique, and this was an expensive machinery, and I was not shown it. You could develop the film material, and then the next day have it together. It was mechanically, analog, you might say, and I understood it was not shown me. It is better not to know who I was or what other possibilities I had. It was a poor life for me. I was depending on others. I never paid for any visit myself. Ponderosa, you know, this had been a real farm, but the house had been a little bit different. It was not fully altogether. Upper stairs, one room, and then only that what was needed. And later it was with the shows, there had been different places built up the same, that the actors could go to another place, and this was in large empty places, maybe in selling places, like home depots, in German, also Möbelhäuser, die hatten dann einfach eine Ecke, genauso wie die Ecke woanders, die gab es dann 3 Mal. This is inside knowledge. I need to have the confirmation, but I can't say I was there in my own identity. I do not want to make problems for others, but it was sometimes dangerous, and it was played a little bit harder than in real life. In real life, I must say, weaknesses were allowed, but not to be weak and to stay at home because your foot is hurting. And they were having, I was interested in them personally as a child. Those were having own difficulties, and I understood there was something from the past, and it was respect. If you went there, you yelled, "Hello, is anybody home?" Those had a gun at their bedside, and it was really very lonesome where they stayed. And then if there had been a farmhouse, they had to guard themselves against the wild animals. And understood it's totally different in Europe, and it was only day trips or 2 or 3, and it was for me that I understood it had to be paid somehow. I think therefore the business with the film industry, and sometimes it felt like being, as we say in German, a Notlösung. It then was a solution not wanted, but the way to go. And times were dangerous. There had been the conflict, and still is, between East and West. And then I was out of the program because no invitations were there anymore. But one time I learned, I got an invitation and someone else answered it. And I asked, how could this happen? To what address? I don't know, said the man. He came because of something else. He was a visitor, lonely, no, alone. We were not lonely. We were playing family of 7, but even in this family we had groups. And I was in the group, this is really true, and even for that I would need confirmation, because that was not as the picture tells you a family should look like. And I think about them when I now go into this looking, and those two, when being before the camera, they played a role, a character. In German, a role is a character, as a Rolle. A role model, but in the old days, people were as they were. I think the Karl system, I call my grandfather the head of the company, even if he had not been, because I don't know anybody else. Personally, I don't know. There had been 2 brothers, but those died before him. And maybe there had been another branch, maybe those contracts had been different, I don't know. But the property was given to them as their possession. Maybe it was not inheritable, I don't know. I talked with some of them how I would do it. Then I understood there had been Indians owning the countryside as well. Therefore W's, and then the oil company wanted to have the triple share below the ground. But being a boy, Maybe I can find a camera. No, this is not good. This is not totally mixture. Sorry. This is Chrome. Or isn't it? No, it's not working. And this is now something much better, I hope. Okay. This today, and I could not talk very much English, but I didn't talk too much at all. Those understood German, and for them it was not they were German, they were people. They were themselves. And I remember one said, yes, and you disappointed me as well, not as much as the others. And I said, why? And he said, you're not fighting. And I said, but you do. You fight. And now the police is all over the place. Yes, but what else can you do? Fight legally, you have no documents. People are lying and cheating. And I understood those were right. Suddenly documents were not there anymore. And this was America. I cannot give my verdict. I cannot say so. There had been violations. There had been other things. And then trickery. And I was somehow invited, and I understood this is not okay. But I was not warned, and I was a minor. At that age I was a minor. This is 16 years old. I looked older, and I was helping as a deputy. This was done, or had been done. I need someone reliable, and they chose me. This is possible. And then, being at home, I asked my mother if she could do something. They needed good motor cruisers for the police in America. And this then was, of course, not sold by us, but this was a networking. It was something possible, but only through others. Therefore, it was the second row, and I myself was invited from time to time. And then people said, you can once be something, and now you are, and I did not understand. And I was not interested. People said so, and I believed. And this must be still the case, that I can rely on the word of others. And I knew those actors as reliable, and also some else. Known figures, Dance with the Wolf, or Robin Hood. Somehow I was not involved, yes, involved. And it was, for me, not the question what happened, it was what is right, and to rely on the adult. But now, looking into it, from my life experience, or from the standpoint of life experience, and I think I now have quite some, it is the problem that there is no defense. Not the willingness of state entities to defend my standpoint. That there is something with false ideas, maybe thinking I didn't want it, maybe thinking I was in a group and someone could speak on my behalf, or in a house or in a tribe. But those, I think, were honest. But each was a respectable entity in itself. And then I was invited to Australia. The tribe's chief wanted to see the son of Karl or Fritz, and I was a little older, maybe a little bit of age, between 18 and 21. There is it is not 100% fixed where you grow to adulthood. Sometimes it is even beyond. that it is practiced as being a minor, and I say this is one thing to look into, but then after that, if the ground is not known, an invitation and then in a movie, and then was the police a movie police or a real one, and this was sometimes not known, even for the actors not. Therefore, I don't know how it is done today. Is there still moving? Not moving, but moving a picture, of course. Not drawing, taking pictures for movie. Moving pictures, it is said, and there had been invitation to look into a solution to bring water to city. And I was there as a little detective, but not saying so. I was looking and asking others and coming back, and my mother was asking me, and we understood each other. My mother the elder, my mother the younger, she was a teacher. Where is she? Mama? Oh no. The child is crying for its mama. Then I said, why are you saying so to my mother the elder? Mama is the younger. Yes, I was raised that strict. In the Prussians, oh, there's Mama. In the Prussian style. Therefore, we were a caring family and understood the others had families themselves. But then came the Russians, as we called them, even in Russia being Germans, and those were different. But the relying on the honesty of state entities was not as they ever believed. And in this country with me there was the belief they have learned, and now this is two cameras, okay, now it is much more. Now you could rely, and my mother said the elder, the German officer, in Deutsch, der deutsche Beamte, dem ist zu trauen. And I couldn't say otherwise. My mother said that survived the Kaiser, the Kaiserreich. And I understood the oath was a real serious thing. The oath taken, given, and it still is. I'm not lightly saying so, and when I did so, I meant it. But not knowing things, this is not breaking your oath, this is giving you the oath according to the best ability. In German, das ist ein Schwur nach bestem Wissen und Gewissen. And how come you can forget those things? There was the saying, forget it, time had changed, and it was optional. Now I understand, oh weh. This was not optional, but where are the documents? Who took it? Because the expectation of even those two, of course I saw them, otherwise I could not tell you. And for me this was not extraordinary. I knew quite a people. Mr. Hitchcock, as I already stated. But this was, I knew my mother's. And this John Wayne, and then he was somehow replaced, was he? And he was not pleased how he was treated. The respect was missing, and please do not start now playing respectful. This is not a thing you can play. Play only. And to fight too much is no solution. Then you get in conflict with the...
Für alle, unser
Oh, I don't like that. And this, oh, this now is another thing. I now remember I had been there, but what were the expectations? I want to know. Was I there as we say, as a Kette-Kruse, as placeholder, And this is strange. When I asked it in Hungary, there wasn't even the answer. Then later the man, I think he was a man of the church, he said, if you don't know, this is embarrassing. And it could be, but then for security reasons, knowing my mother's, I could not imagine my mother not telling me things, because those were negligent. I think Papa did not even know. And Papa was going to the garden. This is not at our house. This is a rented, or has been a rented garden. And there was much, very shortly, as we say in German, gestreift. It was not even met, it was on its way, on my way, a scene, or said in between, or the remark, you could do this if you were interested. And then there had been the knowing that my mother was inside of the building process of the Federal Republic, but she was not allowed to say so. And she didn't. But was it a coincidence? I was at the so-called seniors residence, also in dem Schwerstpflegeheim, da im Siegerland, Netfen. And there a woman said she was chosen as a woman, one of the three, in the first verfassungsgebenden Versammlung. This was a claim, and then coming home, my mother did not say no. This was indirect, and this was very much indirect. And then I understood there were things in the paper, and then as it had been, and I'm glad it did not explode. There had been different places where the capitulation was signed, and I don't know the part of my mother, but she was not doing it out of her free will. There was a demand for reliable people. And my mother had been known somehow. This was not communicated. And then people were complaining, 45 to 55. There had even been sentences for black market activities till the 80s. Punishments and so on. I myself, as a boy, at that age, I think, 14 half, 15, this is 16 half, no, 17. And then I got the idea, I'm now 18, I want to have half a year off school to do a break, and I went to America, but then someone came and he said, you're not allowed to work. I wanted to make it right, and I applied for a job, and there was a looking into, and it was not allowed. I had to go back, and there was no problem with the law because I did not get pay. I stayed there, being invited. And this was important. I was always after legality, and this is still true. But people from the East have learned it otherwise. Legality is bringing you nowhere, but it is important. I do not need some, and it is to be prevented, some illegality. And if it is illegal to build a group for security or the else, then it is even different in Europe. And there's always a trap. Something is accepted, even being illegal, and this was with the Allied forces. There had been people working for the Allied, and they were not even asked. It was then in the papers. If they had been very precisely looking, and even then it was difficult to get out of it. Therefore my mother said, better sign nothing, and do not except pay, and she was pleased when looking into it that I stayed free. This is not that I feel myself someone extraordinary, but it is rather that I now understand it had been the case. In German, es ist natürlich traurig, andere, die kamen da nicht raus, aber ich musste nur sagen, da stimmt was nicht. Meine Mutter hat das dann an meine Stelle rückgängig gemacht. It really had been the case that young people had been given some pocket money, and to do this, to get this, they had only to write a list of new people on the street, new cars. And then later one complained privately, oh, now they want to force me to become a co-worker of the British. And I went to police, and this really had happened. But this was nothing out of the ordinary. You go there and the police said, no, we do not want to hear it. We can't do anything and we look dumb. And I was shocked, because the British said they did nothing wrong. Yes, this was a practice, but was it legal? Did the 14-year-old or 13-year-old, did they get in trouble afterward? I don't know. It was secrecy, and I myself then looked into such problems on my free will, month, 2 months, helping government. But this then was over 1991 or 92 or even to 99. It was sometimes being asked, you do a thing with no pay, but I'm not a member of any group, and this is important. This is not my wish, it is important. And then someone came and said, you can be reimbursed for your trouble, and I said, no. I knew about the trap, being reimbursed, and then everything is reimbursed. I do not even know if there's reimbursement, also als Wiedergutmachung, if it is necessary. I don't know. I'm not a victim of the Stasi. I'm not. If this would be the case, of what Stasi? The Western Stasi, there had been groups in western parts of Germany. The Allied are not Stasi, but what victim? Others got something, but then I don't like the idea. If you go after that idea to be reimbursed, then everybody is a victim. But this is my private idea. I'm not saying that others could not be reimbursed. I had been in the position to say no, and then mother 1 or mother 2. I don't know who is number 1. When I had been with my mama, she was number 1, and she then said, I forbid you to cry this, Mama, like Heintje. And she was saying, okay, now I understand you need me. This mama said, I'm strict because I do not want you to become someone, and I was warned, someone not good enough. Fritz was demanding, and this had not, it had to do with training as well, yes. If you were lazy and not being trained, but this had to do with reliability in the field of truthfulness. And I had talks with young boys and girls. If I had persuaded them, they would have played it, do not play. My mother was too clever to look into play. I had no chance, and I mean both mothers. And then I had really a young replacement mother, and I said then, of course I want to help you. She was a mother. I didn't think much about legality, but I had a mother, but it was a replacement mother, and Papa, even Papa, had friends, and this must have been the bodyguarding system that was necessary, that people could help each other if one would unwanted, guilty or not, in trouble. I cannot give my verdict on that, but I'm now very suspicious. I'd never thought it would be possible that you then complain and no one is answering. I'm not satisfied to get some answer. This is that strange that this is 24. This is a real date. 21st of September in 24. 12 o'clock 17 p.m. Thank you very much. And this is now 40 minutes 36 seconds. I cannot make it too short. But this time I don't myself what to think about. It is a mystery how these chances to meet people was there, and then everything through the old diplomatic or old private diplomatic, yes, private it was. Why was my mother not working for the state? Was she something like state entity herself? She did never say so. Or did she? It was in German much verklausuliert. Ich hätte es nicht wissen können, weil ich nichts anderes gekannt habe. Wenn man nichts anderes kennt, was soll man dazu sagen? Das ist unangenehm. Aber Mama hatte schon gesagt, die bauen Luftschlösser. Dann stellen sie Bedingungen auf und dann erfüllst du die Bedingungen nicht und dann hast du das sogar nicht mehr, was du eigentlich gehabt hättest, ohne dass sie dir dieses Mehr, dieses Surplus vorgestellt hätten. Und my mother said herself, there was training for the men in the system, unknown how large that had been or whose that had been legally, a training not to get in traps, to be sober even if having had a little drink, or there was even a medicine known, the natural and the chemistry was then rebuilding natural remedies, or the doctoring, and this is unknown. This must have been an inventors network. Had there been in South America as well, there had been a heart transplant, but in South America, yes, of course. In 1870 kann es auch, oder hat es auch in Südamerika, also ich meine jetzt wirklich Südamerika, also nördlich von Brasilien. Maybe there had been north of Brazil. Yes, it was not even a rumor, it was now conclusive. Someone said to the other, where was this first invented? And there came reasoning, and then it even went not to Europe, but to South America. And the idea now is, was this a network alongside the banking network and the already known merchandise network? Was Carl known as Carol, or Carl, or Charlie, or Charles? Carlos? I don't know. Carlos maybe in Spain. Was he... Lepli was a name like an official. Having the Lappen, Lepli. The character was in a movie, and I could play it not too good. It is not good to be too good. Otherwise you would then be drawn. I was supposed to stay free till I would find out what legal is there. And my mother meant her own, my mother Elsie, civil AC, Victoria Louise Charlotte, and civil Dorothy. This is a conclusion, Victoria Louise Charlotte. And this is a conclusion, but for me, I've lost any arguments against it. Johanna Marina, And the papers say she was dying because of an inflammation in the head. My mother said she was having because of this, but she did not claim she was Jonna Marina. She didn't. And Victoria Charlotte, no, my mother didn't. Why? Is there strict an oath or something like it? An oath? And there had been visitors, and they asked silly questions. I don't understand. Those polite people could have been the nobility's secret police, looking if das ist natürlich Spekulation, also hier wird es auch keine Adelspolizei gegeben haben. Die haben sich selbst helfen lassen, das wäre eine ganz seltsame Sache, und haben gleichzeitig überprüft, denn ich bin so komisch gefragt worden. Die haben dann gleichzeitig überprüft, ob einer was gesagt hat. Wer ist denn Papa gewesen? Had Papa been this legendary Jewish prince who never was becoming a prince? Who was the Danish young man who sided with the Reich? My father was not in favor because maybe inside of this sportsman system of the Hitler Youth, when he was himself 14 years old. He explained it to me. There was some strange things, the ghost stories, but the sporting activities, and then the comradeship and so on. And I learned to look from the perspective of the individual. And this was, as I can understand it, with respect. The men traveling the world, those who were supposed to wear the clothes of the country. Also in Deutsch, also das ist natürlich alles nur Erzählung, und ich weiß nicht, welche Position Karl gehabt hat oder Fritz. Aber meine Mutter sagte, sie müssten schon hervorragende Position gehabt haben, aber sie wollten das nicht, denn es war ja viel zu gefährlich. Dann haben sie jemand anders die Krone aufgesetzt, nein, die hatten auch gar keine, oder doch? Und sie haben da selbst den Fahrer, deswegen war er der Fahrer bei Rommel. Nein, aber der Fahrer sagte, er hatte mich mal vertreten. Das heißt, hier sind Sachen erzählt worden, und das muss man erstmal kapieren. So diese Hollywood-Art, wo man gerne vorne ist, obwohl jemand mal gesagt hat, ja, das tut schon gut, wenn man so den Applaus bekommt. Aber ich denke, mit Karl war das eher nicht gewünscht, dass jemand da so drauf reinfällt. Aber ich kann das noch nicht genau sagen. Und das ist natürlich dann die Sache. Meine Mutter sagte, she was having herself enough for me, to fill my life, but I had then nothing. And then officially it was said those had both been dreamers. And Papa, he was no dreamer, he was a worker or what? My mother, she was a teacher. Did she say something about Breslau? Yes, then it was the bad name. She is talking lightly about the Third Reich. But had there been in Breslau a little quarter being different? I think so. Breslau, friends, this was the start into my private looking into. I now call it an investigation because I have expectations to find out more. Thank you very much. Those are real, true pictures. This is physically present. And this was a passport photo, this a passport photo, this a passport photo of my father, and this of my mother. And there are many things, sometimes tabloid style. Therefore don't believe what you read about Bonnie and Clyde. But my mother said there had been different people with that name. And then it was captured by foreign entities. Bonnie and Clyde at the start were supposed to bring peace into the immigrants' communities. And then that was somehow captured, and I didn't learn, and I never thought it was important for me. And it was then said this and that, It could well be that there is a connotation. It should be, otherwise I wouldn't understand that people came, if they wanted something, to this address, Rostocker. And there had been, strange enough, a parallel address. Why? Is this in a security system necessary to have things parallel? And then came someone from the DDR who said he had been a parallel. No, he thought he was the original. And then from Poland, I don't know, this is half-bred somehow. This is not, in German, das ist irgendwie so halbgar. Hat jemand anders gedacht, er wäre das Original? Das kann sein. Und ich habe gedacht, dass hier stimmt überhaupt nichts. Und ich verstehe jetzt hier durch diese Erinnerung, oh Mama sagte, die anderen, diese Patchwork-Geschwister, die wissen ja nichts. Das stimmt wirklich. Weil die einfach nicht empfänglich sind. Man kann das jemand nicht aufzwingen. You cannot force it in the throat of someone because everything looked optional. And it is possible it is optional, but this really had happened. This was a joke on the sideline to help Prussians to get not the idea, I don't know, no, it was not even that. But it was for others some trying to find out the right time to do such a thing. It is in a Bavarian Bierzelt, and Bavarians don't like the Prussian tunes too much. And we had been very solemn people, pious, and were not laughing at all. And that, of course, is something not true. But it looked to the others. It was I thought, a good protection. But there had been the belief in God and the belief in truthfulness and in humanity, and there still is. But I do not want to go into the church bashing or the DDR bashing. I feel myself like others. I don't know what the papers say and what is true. It is about me now and about my parents. First about my parents. And the father, he, I think, had to pay because helping others. And I do not even know that 100%. But even in the dark age, in the really dark age, this was the Third Reich, people lost their faith. And then believed in the Führer instead. I'm not against the leadership, and this man, hopefully it was perceived as a joke and not taken too hard, but there had been contracts from the supporters of politics, and I don't know who that had been, but I heard it, that both sides are to be supported, and it was looked into if this could have given too much stress on one or the other. But I think I heard nothing. It was accepted, and those from Mecklenburg, I think those did not even know. It was exactly calculated when the beer was lighting up things. Thank you very much, and this is serious, and do not expect me being a circus man, I'm not. But don't believe it either, that the serious can't have fun, but responsibility, this is now what counts. As said, when visiting one of the property holders, there was a yelling, is anybody at home? And then it was respect to wait till the other said, yes, I'm here, or not today, I do not feel well. It was about collecting some rent. I was once there, I don't think too often, and then the man said sometimes, there is nothing, I live off the land. You understand? this was all I got to know. I do not even know what the man did with the, do not know, $1,000 or $100 or $50. I don't know. And it was not of interest. It was of interest to see the circumstances, to see the whole thing, to see man living of the land. And those needed not too much money, but what if those got ill? One said, I never go to a hospital. Mountain man. The serious mountain man is in part really well, as it had been, but sometimes not. The thing missing is some get money. You can't live there without having income. Therefore, sometimes the pay was as a guard for the future options. In German, also manche müssen da bestimmt so ein Verwalter gewesen sein von dem Property, aber ich weiß nicht, wem das gehört. Ich weiß nicht, was mit diesen paar Euros gemacht wurde, aber ich weiß, dass das so gelaufen ist und dass die eigentlich zufrieden waren. Es wurde verhandelt. Ja, wie viel kannst du zahlen? Und dann hat man auch gefragt, ich durfte das fragen, warum machen Sie das oder warum machst du das? Wenn ich das verstand, sonst habe ich halt gar nichts gesagt. Ich war einfach so als Kind vielleicht so dem Alter und die waren Menschen eben, so Hillbillies teilweise und dann, weiß ich nicht, war da auch in der Lieferkette, war auch was anderes, aber ich war halt da, weil ich mal sehen sollte, wie es international zugeht. It was the ethnical understanding of the character of people that was, I think, the idea of my being raised and then going along, but I never paid for it. And Mama didn't. She once said, I have no money to buy you new clothes. Let those people do it. In German again, also hatte ich natürlich dann gemerkt, also Mama war schon, manchmal hatte sie die Nase voll von diesen Leuten, die ich gar nicht kannte. Warum ist Mama denn nie mitgefahren? Man muss ja schon aufpassen. Das waren teilweise ganz andere Charaktere. Aber sie sind trotzdem, also wilde Leute manchmal, sie sind trotzdem respektiert worden. Und dann, wenn sie erzählen von früher, da waren auch Pelztierjäger dabei, Trapper. Oder da waren auch Fischer dabei, die hatten irgendwo einen Hafen, ich weiß nicht, welche Rechte da involviert waren und ich habe das meiste nicht verstanden. Und ich war einfach jemand, der mal so als Lehrling mitlief. Und dann hat das aufgehört. Da hat das ganz aufgehört. Das hat hier, ich weiß nicht, 85, hat es aufgehört. Dann fragte mal einer, warum machst du das nicht mehr? Ja, weil ich keine Angebote mehr, also keine Einladung mehr bekam. Und da kann schon was passiert sein. Aber meine Mutter sagte, ich habe schon genug, denn das muss doch von dem anderen. Und dann habe ich aber nochmal gesagt, wenn das andere nutzen, da habe ich nichts dagegen, weil ich kann das ja nicht. Aber ich möchte es selbst verwerten. And this is important. I was asked if I want to give it away, and I said no. This is use of that, but I do not even know if I'm the right successor. The right one, I don't know. I need grounds. Grounds, also ich brauche wirklich Rechtsgrundlagen. Und wenn das wirklich so ist, das kann ja gar nicht sein. Ich gehe jetzt davon aus, Karl wird sogar mit den Lokalregierungen das gemacht haben. Und da hat man vielleicht nicht nachgeguckt, wenn das so läuft. Und ich weiß auch noch nicht mal, was ich jetzt hier eigentlich will. Doch, ich weiß. Ich will einfach daran kommen, was ist Legal Ground? Was ist jetzt überhaupt die Rechtsgrundlage? And I do it bilingual and mostly in English because in this part of the world, in Middle Europe, there was much the idea, there are excuses, the war, the shifting of the reunification, and abroad no one accepted that. Also das hat im Ausland, also außerhalb von Mitteleuropa, das keiner akzeptiert. Man kann auch nicht sagen, das ist eben so, wäre gelaufen, jetzt müssen wir einen Schlussstrich machen und so weiter. Das hier muss wirklich nicht mit Entschuldigung bedacht werden. Ich möchte erstmal wissen, das ist wirklich meine Hand. Das hier habe ich jetzt nichts Besonderes. Aber ich bin nicht zufrieden. Ich bin einiges gewohnt. I'm used to some illegal, dishonoring things. I feel myself very near to those stuntmen who were not wanting to be stuntmen. It was stuntman ability on the sideline. Maybe in the next movie I tell you a little bit about the dangers of the training program to be one of the executives. Na, weiß nicht. Also irgendeiner der Offiziellen, der, ich weiß nicht, Handelsvertreter ist, glaube ich, das Richtige. Ubique terrarum, sie haben aber nicht jeden Tag sowas gehabt. Ja, vielleicht alle 10 Jahre mal so eine Gefahr. Sonst waren sie aber gewappnet, falls mal was passiert. Und das geht ja nicht mehr so. Heute geht es meines Erachtens nur um die richtigen Rechtsgrundlagen, aber die könnte man schon illegal verschieben. Das geht, das darf wohl nicht sein. Und das kann illegal auch mit falschen Arztdiagnosen geschehen. Und das darf nicht sein. Also bitte ich um Hilfe und das ist wirklich erforderlich. Und die Wege, wie man mir helfen kann, die wird man schon finden. Ja. Die wird man schon finden und wenn man sie nicht hat, dann kann man ja wenigstens so weit an der Wahrheit interessiert sein, dass man mal sagt, hier muss man noch mal reingucken. Und nicht auf Tabloid hören oder auf diese Propaganda oder... Ich kann das auch nicht verstehen, was das eigentlich soll. Und dann eine Schublade und dann noch eine Schublade. Also ich habe eine eigene Schublade, hoffentlich. Das haben auch meine Eltern verdient. Ja, aber wir passen schon rein in die Riege der ehrlichen Leute. Deswegen, das lasse ich mir auch nicht gefallen, dass wir nicht reinpassen. Das sind dann diese ganzen Entschuldigungen. Lasst sie doch bitte nicht zu. Lassen Sie die bitte nicht zu. Vielen Dank. Und wir haben jetzt, mein Name ist Friedrich, also wirklich Vorname Friedrich. Bis zum nächsten Mal, 21.09.2024, 12:38 Uhr. Dankeschön.